spoilers? Oh, lots and lots of spoilers. Max and I have been traveling the wastelands of this battered, chapped planet of ours. It's 10 past the evil robot rampage, and there's barely a multiplex left open. Ah, there ahead. I see a bright light, a screen with flickering images. It seems to be calling to me, beckoning, pleading that I take in its message and, perhaps with a bit of luck, change the course of humanity itself. Oh, if only I can get closer before my android oppressors catch me and turn me into joint lube. Wait, that message. It's coming clearer. It's Max Mike Movies! This is it, the last entry in our miniseries, Focus on John Cusack! His has been an interesting career, and though we've just taken tiny slices of it, I think we can all say that we've taken tiny slices of it.
Yep.
This week, Singularity is under the microscope. One of Cusack's most recent films. It isn't exactly the most Cusack we've seen him be. Is this a hint of what's to come, or just a little side bet lost somewhere? On my right, the AI with all the answers, Max Dynamut Levine. Bark twice for no, Max.
I need more joint lube.
Oh, dear.
I'm going to have to render you down.
And me, I am the fum to his fi, Mike Tweaky Loose. Before this gets out of hand... yeah, let's get out of here. Before this gets out of hand, let's get to the poll question and your answers therein.
Your favorite poll.
Poll question. Last week, we asked you what movies had a soundtrack so good you had to run out and buy, stream, or whatever you kids do today right away. You had some really great answers. Becca Pelkey was first with Empire Records. Also, the first CD I ever owned was Young Guns 2. End quote. Damn the man. Thanks, Becca.
Save the Empire.
Benjamin Schleiss offered, quote, Maverick. There are some great songs, plus they have a version of Amazing Grace in it that I like, though you do have to like country. The other one was Daredevil, the Ben Affleck one. Granted, the movie isn't that good, but the soundtrack is, end quote. And there's an emoji that I'm going to interpret as meaning choice, so the soundtrack is choice.
Okay.
Thanks, Ben. Ian Coleman's list was, quote, Blade Runner, Vangelis, end quote. Agreed. Thanks, Ian. Regan McStravick, totally not my cousin, posted, quote, so many films in the 80s and 90s were practically music videos, even though they weren't musicals. Flashdance, Footloose, Top Gun, Dirty Dancing, most of the John Hughes films. It's a very long list. Rocky Horror certainly has a soundtrack worth buying, although that really is starting to get into the musical category, end quote. I'd agree that Rocky is indeed a musical.
Yeah.
Still, thanks, Regan. Val Coons, totally not my sister except when she is, wrote, quote, I don't think I've ever bought a movie soundtrack that wasn't a musical, but I do remember that The Big Chill had a great list, and Love Actually, Top Gun, A Knight's Tale, and of course The Graduate. And Spinal Tap and A Mighty Wind if they aren't considered musicals, end quote. I'd say they weren't.
I'd say they're more concert films.
Yeah, I'd say they weren't, but who am I, your brother? Thanks, Val. Ed Shields once again wrote, Streets of Fire. End quote. Apparently he was serious, but he will not stop until I see that film. Thanks, Ed. Adam Mark went a bit more orchestral with, quote, Pretty Woman, 13 going on 30, The Godfather, Patton, and Jurassic Park, end quote. Wow, our first John Williams mention. Thanks, Adam.
Yeah.
Tyler Stewart gives us 3. The original Suspiria, Constantine, and DeLovely, which he notes has great covers of Cole Porter songs. Thanks, Tyler.
The Suspiria, I would not have gone there.
Yeah, apparently he did. At least the original one. I guess it got remade.
Yeah.
Oh, it must be with Nicolas Cage. Amber Stevens' list included...
they're all witches. Oh,
not the bees! Amber Stevens' list included Forrest Gump, St. Elmo's Fire, The Last Waltz, Purple Rain. Okay, I missed that one. The Crow, and Oh Brother, Where Art Thou?
That's a good one.
Great list. Thanks, Amber. Kelly Cooper said, quote, Not yet mentioned, Ferris Bueller's Day Off, Donnie Darko, Baby Driver, Spider-Man Into the Spider-Verse, Guardians of the Galaxy, Pump Up the Volume, and The Jungle Book animated cartoon version. End quote. Animated version, indeed. I don't believe there was another kind, was there? No, there was not. And damned good list, too. Thanks, Kelly. Javi Carl had a bit to say with, quote, The Rock, and I think he means the movie, not the actor. Hans Zimmer's now ubiquitous sound was new. It's kind of a silly movie in many ways, an alternate universe James Bond in others, but Bruckheimer, Bay, and Zimmer hit a note, if you'll pardon the pun. Deep in the America ethos was inspiring the way that Rocky or Chariots of Fire themes are. Had to have it, end quote.
I thought it was an interesting movie when, Nicolas Cage and Sean Connery try to break into Dwayne Johnson.
I don't think
I'm almost sure that was what it was.
What drugs are you on? And let me have some.
I don't know. There are all these colors.
Ooh, those are Skittles. Those are some big names to swing about indeed. Thanks, Javi. Keep your Skittles to yourself, especially those brown ones.
Ugh.
Jess Miller came in with, quote, Empire Records, save them, Empire. Guardians of the Galaxy, The Crow, I still listen to the soundtrack regularly, end quote. Another for Empire and The Crow. Thanks, Sweetie Honey Pumpkin. She knows what I mean.
Sweetie Honey Pumpkin.
I don't play favorites.
Yeah.
Steve Harvey offered, quote, Diva and Betty Blue, end quote. Ooh, heading into some international waters. Thanks, Steve. Buzz Her had another little list. Quote, Man in the Iron Mask, Top Gun, Independence Day, Patton, Dr. Zhivago, Cleopatra, end quote. That's some classic stuff in there, Buzz. Thanks. Geneva Brunetti's list was no less impressive. Quote, Wicker Park, The Kingdom, Royal Tenenbaums, Moneyball, Beetlejuice, Garden State, and Guardians of the Galaxy. I think we're winning on Guardians of the Galaxy.
It seems to be pulling out ahead there.
Quote. Thanks, Geneva. Well, to be fair, the whole movie is based entirely on a mixtape, so...
Yeah.
Matt Reisman slides in one that was strangely overlooked till now. Quote, The Lord of the Rings, Fellowship of the Ring, it's a masterpiece, end quote. Indeed. Thanks, Matt. Nick Gasparoni, last on the Facebook page, posted, quote, I like orchestral the most. My favorite Zimmer soundtrack is Inception, although Dune and Interstellar are just as well crafted. I'm guessing he means the newest Dune, not the Lynch Dune. Williams is notorious for his many great thematic soundtracks. From his, I'd highlight Home Alone. Howard Shore, that's what he says.
Okay.
Howard Shore, of course, did masterful work on the LOTR trilogy. I'll add a few others. The Incredibles, really good soundtrack. The Social Network, and Don't Look Up, end quote. Great insight. Thanks, Nick. And kind of a surprise. I think we actually got Jurassic Park earlier with Adam, but surprised that there weren't any Star Wars on the list.
No Johnny Williams Star Wars.
Yeah, or Superman or Indiana Jones. But hey, there you go. Moving over to the website, we have good old Vince with, quote, Whenever I think of a killer soundtrack, I think of Run Lola Run. The music propels the film forward and through its unconventional plot line and gets you revved up with a dance beat that never lets up. The film itself is pretty awesome and visual, but anyone can easily put in the DVD and just listen to it, end quote. Thanks a lot. As always, oh snowy friend to the north. What about you, Max? Any soundtracks that just leapt into your hands while leaving the theater?
Honestly, one person did mention it. For me, it was Pump Up the Volume. Because, quite honestly, that was my introduction to Leonard Cohen. I had heard, I think First We Take Manhattan, but I had never heard Everybody Knows.
Yeah.
And when I heard that had both that and Hi Dad, I'm in Jail, I had to get the soundtrack.
Yeah. Pump Up the Volume, I think a lot of people somehow don't know about that film or forgot about it.
See our review of Pump Up the Volume.
Indeed. I really like that film, and music is central to what's going on in the plot. I actually do like films where the music is woven logically. Although,
it's like the music's another character in a lot of ways.
Yeah, it's definitely part of the setting, and it's integral to what's going on. Just throwing a bunch of songs, not so much.
I also kind of like the soundtrack for Juno, although it's a very different tone.
Oh yeah, really indie.
Yeah, there are a lot of indie kind of mopey rock, but
or as we call it, schlep rock.
Schlep rock, yes. Wowsy. So,
our previous episode.
What about you? What's the soundtracks that leap into your mind besides Star Wars? Apparently, as you brought up.
Yeah, and to be fair, I did have the Star Wars soundtrack, and I listened to it a lot. But I want to go with Magnolia. So Magnolia.
Magnolias.
No, not the.
Oh, right.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Amy Mann, because just like The Graduate, which somebody mentioned, I think my sister did. There's one person doing all the songs, and it's a really interesting choice, and when done well, and it's not done often, I think it really adds, almost like you said, like a character. I'm also a big Blade Runner fan, and for those who like electronic music, I really like the soundtrack to Andromeda Strain. It's weird, but I like it. And Ferris Bueller. I mean, Ferris Bueller has a great soundtrack.
Yeah.
Boom, 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 boom. That's the rest of the episode, by the way.
Yep.
But, yeah, so that was really a great set of well-thought-out answers, as always.
Really made you think.
We love getting them from you folks. They
Thank you so
brighten our day.
much.
But help us out again, won't you? And this time, it's extra special as it will directly feed into our special 200th episode. Dear God.
200th episode.
200th episode.
That's like more than 4.
Yes, Max. Counting is not your...
Counting hard.
Yeah, right.
Well, it's hard. I don't have my blocks.
We'll get them later when you're done with the show.
Promise?
Yes.
Okay.
What is your favorite filmic representation of the Batman? That's right. Batman will die tonight. For those who don't know, they start in 1943 and continue on till this day. Remember, your favorite filmic representation of Batman.
As in theatrical release, movie,
Cartoon.
Cartoon, I guess.
Because maybe you think the Batman has been best shown in animation.
Yeah,
I don't know.
Entirely possible. But you let us know. And remember, my parents are dead.
Jen, are you using fabric softener? Okay, let us know in the usual way, but I guess I can't delay any longer.
Yeah.
Let's get going with Singularity.
Yeah.
The show. Budget. This can't be right. $100,000.
I think that's entirely right.
The take... $86,000.
I would not have been surprised if you just said $86.
See, if this is true, and I highly doubt it is, this means Cusack did his bit for something like $5,000.
He might have done it for scale as a favor to somebody.
In Switzerland?
Maybe it was for a trip to Switzerland.
Sure, I guess. Okay. Didn't check on this first, but technically, in a way... This is not really a John Cusack movie. See, the movie originally shot in 2013 in the Czech Republic didn't include or involve him at all. The movie was called Aurora, which actually makes more sense.
Yes, it was about a small town in Illinois.
No, it wasn't.
Yeah, I'm
Seeing
sure it
in
was.
need of... Blocks, Mac. Do you want your blocks? You're not getting them. Seeing in need of some kind, the makers of the movie shot it, waited 4 years, then filmed some stuff with Cusack and just crowbarred him in. You're short on trivia when the only other piece available is a list of the theaters, all 8 of them that actually showed this in the U.S. Oh dear. Yes.
I would like to point out, Cusack didn't actually have to go to Switzerland. We don't know if he did, because all of his scenes are shot inside.
It's true. We don't know.
Yeah,
I'm going to go with don't care.
Yeah, he might have just gone to some local studio, shot a few scenes, emailed them over.
Yeah. That really does seem to be it. So glad our listeners and commenters gave such good answers to our poll question, as otherwise the show
it's going to be a very short episode otherwise.
Yeah. So, John Cusack movie trivia. Let's get to the plot.
Yeah, let's.
John Cusack plays AI genius Elias Van Dorn, a mega brain that has come up with a handy daily use attack robot. Doing so has not caused the human population to become more peaceful, though everyone's standard of living has increased. It has instead caused them to be more violent, though with the robots doing all the fighting, it's not entirely clear how this is the case. Well, that's all part of Van Dorn's plan. The next step, Kronos, not the pass-reduce syndrome system, but instead an insidious new form of AI that isn't explained very well, is to be released to an unsuspecting public all at once. It also manages to merge with Cusack so that he is Kronos, kind of. It's according to plan. And as soon as it's released, it starts missiling the population. Cut to 97 years later, when nearly everyone is wiped out, with robots looking to destroy what little are left. A young man, Andrew, who has been getting on a bus before the robot apocalypse, wakes up just as young as before, wondering, like us, what the hell is going on, where he is. Meeting up with Kalia, who fills in the confused Andrew with all the backstory he'll need, he then decides to join her in her search for Aurora. And what is Aurora? Why, it's Zion, of course. Wait, no. It's a near-mythical city of peace and safety somewhere nearby. Oh, it is Zion. After some run-ins with evil humans and robo-killers, they finally reach what is supposed to be Aurora. What they find is that somehow the humans have indeed made a place of safety on another planet. Evil Cusack has seen this all along and will follow their trip to the fabled planet Aurora so he can continue his evil plan of evil and stuff. Except he won't, as that would take place in another film, and there definitely won't be another one of those. The end. The
down.
Max.
Yeah.
I know you hadn't heard of this film before.
I had.
Oh, really?
I actually came across it channel flipping once.
I see.
And I watched about 4 seconds of it and went, nope.
Wait, this was actually on, like,
Cable.
a place where people could see it?
It was. It was in a place where actual human people could watch it if they wanted to.
They could literally stumble onto something this
Yeah, I know. It's I think, extremely irresponsible of my cable provider, and I wrote a very long letter to them.
Yeah. We must keep our listeners in suspense about what we think of this movie.
Yeah, I think this is going to be pretty obvious from the get-go.
Yeah, it starts off telling us the rating of the film, and I noticed that it was rated PG for mild violence, which I think mild is a pretty good descriptor for a lot of this film.
Most of this film is mild. I mean, there's mild cuddling.
Yeah, there's not even implied sex.
Nope.
Which is just as well as it turns out that I don't care about spoilers. Andrew's a robot, okay?
Yeah.
Because he's like 12.
Yeah.
No, he's supposed to be an adult.
He's supposed to be according to his tombstone that we see in his flashback / dream / random scenes they filmed for no reason. He's about 22.
12. He can't spell facial hair. Never mind, actually grow any.
Yeah, but Katniss there. Sorry. The only reason,
she looks just like her.
Well, not really. Jennifer Lawrence is taller and way better looking. But this woman, the reason she looks like we think Katniss is she's wearing sort of the leather outfit and she's carrying a crossbow.
Yes.
It's a dumbass weapon to walk around with for self-defense, considering how slow they are to load.
Well, and here's the thing, too. We can guess maybe only one sporting goods store was left after the apocalypse, and that's all they had. Yeah. But considering the robots we soon go up against, a crossbow bolt would do exactly nothing.
Nothing, yeah.
Yeah, but luckily, when our hero, Andrew, hero, boy, that's a stretch of definition, pops up 97 years later.
Yeah.
There's a nice round number.
Yeah.
With no explanation, because we see him get on a bus. He literally gets on a bus in present time. John Cusack pushes the we have the Cusack missile crisis. And everything blows up. And the next thing we see is Andrew wakes up at a farmhouse somewhere, and he's exactly the same 12-year-old person.
Same outfit, same everything.
So there's a lot of suspense about, is he a robot? No, there's none. Actually, there's no suspense in this film at all.
There is no suspense. There are a lot of scenes that you think, okay, this is supposed to be tense. It isn't.
Yeah. But luckily, the first person he runs into happens to be beautiful, and all her clothes are perfect.
Beautiful young woman. And apparently, 97 years later, we still have hair care and skin care products in great abundance.
Well, luckily, he won't need any because he can't shave because he doesn't have to.
Well, even without being a robot, I don't think he'd ever have to shave.
No, but his hair is developing that Pike's Peak as things go along. There's a deeper. There's a number of interesting explanations for things in this film, and one of them in the overdub by Mr. Cusack. Because there are robots, the standard of living went up. So I see introducing an expensive product automatically means that everyone's standard of living goes up.
Not only that, it's pretty well established that if the standard of living goes up for everyone, which is what's implied, violence and crime go down.
Yeah.
Because that's usually a direct cause and effect thing, is poverty and crime. And if you raised everyone's standard of living, I doubt we'd get more violent. That's just part they just didn't think about.
Max,
as with most of this.
I don't think you understand humanity the way the filmmakers understand humanity.
So much of this film, you can tell, is grafted on afterwards. I swear, we don't know this, but the voiceover from Katniss is not... It's very clearly was added later. It's that sort of Blade Runner, oh, wait, I think the audience is stupid. We'd better, sushi, cold fish. That's what my ex-wife used to call me. I'm sorry, Mr. Ford. That just...
Also,
I know you didn't like that either.
No, he did not. And it shouldn't have been in there. But that's my opinion. Yeah, so if you get robots, hey, you can end war, except that you don't, because then there's lots more violence and wars and stuff, except the only thing we see fighting are the robots, so...
Yes, although we're told there are lots of civilian casualties, and then they turn on Kronos, and Kronos basically is Skynet, because like Skynet in the Terminator movies, it goes, well, the greatest danger to the world is humanity.
Yeah.
So humanity must die.
And robots would think this because they were made by nature. Okay. Yeah, right.
Apparently nobody who creates these globe-spanning, weapons-controlling AIs ever considers, maybe we should put in the basic programming, don't hurt anybody, we don't tell you to hurt.
Yeah, if only somebody, I don't know, smart person, scientist, science fiction author came up with
rules,
laws of robotics
laws would be
or
good.
something.
Yeah, you wouldn't need that many, maybe 3 or 4, I don't know.
Hey, science fiction, look into that, would you?
Yeah.
And don't tell me we know. There already are some.
Now, the one thing I will say, there are a couple of things, as we're looking for positives in the movie, so we can get RAM chips. There's a deeper one. The scenery is very pretty.
Yes.
Filmed in rural Czechoslovakia. It's gorgeous.
And Switzerland.
Yeah, and Switzerland. And there's this very cool castle that they end up, which is a real place, I assume. And
$800,000. It's real.
Yeah, and it's gorgeous. It just doesn't matter that it's gorgeous, and it has nothing to do with anything.
No.
We're outside it. We see it for about a minute and a half, and then it's all back into dark tunnels and blinking lights and so forth.
Yeah, and technology that.
Let's talk about the acting.
Oh, wow, you're mean.
Yeah.
Oh, I mean, yes. Let's talk about the acting.
Well, we got to talk about our boy here. We got to talk about Cusack.
We do.
John Cusack, bless his heart, is there is phoning it in. And there's jotting it down on a Post-it note, giving it to your assistant, who goes out, finds a random person on the street, gives them money to find one remaining phone booth, and they phone it in.
And then they wipe with it.
Yeah.
My initial impression, so my fourth note into the film, Cusack seems tired.
Yeah.
And I think he's tired of being in this film, and it's only been 5 minutes.
Yeah, I don't know if he's tired of being, or he's just like, I don't want to do any more movies, I need a break. And this does kind of lead us into what he's been doing lately. Yeah. He's been doing a lot of straight-to-video movies.
Yes, VOD, video on demand. Although in this case, nobody actually seems to have demanded it.
Yeah.
He seemed tired. His voice seems a little husky to me. I don't know if I don't think he's actually acting. I think he's just, that's natural. But he spends most of the film, he starts off being some sort of mega super genius,
We know this because we're told he's a mega super genius. We never see or hear him do anything particularly smart.
He just stands in this one room, literally one room.
Yeah.
My guess is they had him for an afternoon. I hope, whatever. There's other people in this film. They're there.
Sure?
Yeah, there's Robot Boy Andrew. And
and then there's Dr. Glow Skull, who was clearly the original villain for the movie, played by no one.
Yeah. Well, he might be famous in Europe. I don't know.
Yeah, he might have sold more records than the Beatles and Elvis in Greenland. I don't know.
All you got to do is work in a record store.
Yeah. But no, there's no other actors in this movie. There are people who are in this movie. The young woman looks nice. The young man is inoffensive.
Yeah, in that I'm not really interested kind of way.
He has two facial expressions, bug-eyed and slack-jawed.
And unfortunately, he's mirroring John Cusack, and we know he's doing this unconsciously because when he's filmed, it will be 4 years before they even consider putting Cusack in the film.
Yeah.
Because Cusack has this habit of letting his mouth hang open. I don't know. It's endearing to him, but this kid just looks like, And there's this whole thing about how he's supposed to be a robot, I guess. He wasn't a robot, and then they made him one.
It's supposed to be a big shocker, twist, plot point.
Well,
that he's basically, they used him as a template and built a T-1000 or what have you. Basically built a robot, a Terminator, who was supposed to infiltrate humanity and find their way to where Aurora, Zion, Rivendell, whatever.
There wasn't even sweaty dancing.
Yeah, and I found myself asking, why did they need him?
I don't know.
They can track the woman Kalia, Katniss, basically. They've already shown they can track her.
Well, and she's doing it with a cell phone. Why don't they just take her cell phone?
There's a map on the cell phone.
Yeah.
Also, I don't know how she's charging this cell phone because it's been 97 years since there's been electricity.
Yeah, 97 years. And apparently the best plan of Mr. Cusack, who does seem to meld with his own thing. Except there's one point where they actually show it's John Cusack from the waist up, and then glowing pants below.
Well, he's like a hologram. He walks through a table at some point.
I guess, but whatever. They decide that the best way to figure out where Aurora is to dig somebody up, make them... Somehow they have all the engrams, or whatever one calls the memories and stuff, and they can make Robo Andrew, who wakes up having no idea what's going on or what's happened, meets up with Katniss, the dumbest freedom fighter in the future ever.
Seriously.
She is the only one who does not consider he might be a robot, even though... In this whole human apocalypse, he has no idea what's just happened.
Yeah.
Doesn't need to eat.
Doesn't sleep.
Get tired. Yeah. And she's like, "Oh, you must be. Oh, that's weird. You don't eat. Oh, well, let's go to sleep, and I'll just not pay attention."
Yeah. Well, I think she's been alone for a while, and I think Katniss got to have it there because she certainly starts getting very cuddly with him very quickly.
Yeah, but it doesn't go any further than that, which is fine. I don't need it to go further.
The closest thing we get to physical affection is at one point, for no reason at all, they turn on his kill switch, and he starts strangling her, and she kisses him to snap him out of it.
And it works.
Yeah, and apparently, I don't know. I'm getting odd sort of David Carradine autoerotic. He's choking her and she's kissing him. It's like, okay, I think you're making another movie here.
Yeah. Well, the funny part is, if you look at all carefully, you'll notice that his hand isn't even clenching. But
no, he's just sort of resting it on her neck.
But we meet later on. So somehow she's managed to live through the apocalypse. We don't know. She says she has a father, and they used to be. And there's a flashback where. There's her family, and apparently the rest of her family died, and her father got away, but he has a dog collar with an Apple tag on it. And its last known position is on her cell phone, and she's going to try and find him. He's supposedly in Aurora, blah, 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 blah. So she's been born in the middle of this wasteland apocalypse, which actually looks pretty nice.
Yeah, for an apocalypse, it's awfully green and pretty.
Yeah, apparently Czech Republic's forests are like that.
Yeah.
But she has gotten so far on her own and not been killed. And we even see at one point they come across some other humans, and her initial reaction is, you shouldn't talk to other humans.
Yeah.
And we don't know why she decided to talk with Andrew. I mean, admittedly, it doesn't look very threatening.
He doesn't, and he was alone.
I guess.
And the only other humans we meet are immediately assault them and
try
to do naughty things, and he hulks out.
Sure.
Or, not really Hulk, sort of. He dweebs out, snaps ropes, beats them up with his awesome dweeb strength and his mighty pipe cleaner arms.
Well, there's one where they've tied him to a tree in the most cartoon-looking rope you've ever seen.
Seriously, it really looks like the way Elmer Fudd would secure Bugs Bunny to a tree.
And it's not even particularly tight. And so we're sitting there waiting for him to lean forward and for the rope to fall off, which is essentially what happens. Yeah. And then somehow, even then, she's still like, oh, I can't remember if she even figures out he's a robot then or not. Oh, that's right. He gets cut with a machete, except it doesn't actually cut his hoodie.
Yeah, apparently.
It just cuts him.
Yes, apparently it manages to phase through his hoodie and T-shirt and just cut his chest so we can see weird glowy blue stuff.
Yeah, and they go wandering off, and he's like, I'm okay. And it's like, how can you be okay? And then only then she realizes he's a robot. Which, okay. And then, there's other actors in this, and we don't care. And there's robots in this, and they're fun. I mean... For the budget, I will say the special effects, now that I know it supposedly cost $800,000, they actually got a lot out of their $800,000.
They did. The CG in it is competent. Yeah, we've seen really bad CG in many movies.
Yes.
And this is adequate. I mean, it's damning with faint praise, but it's adequate. It's what you would expect in 2020.
Yeah.
For that kind of money.
2017. Or 2013, really.
Yeah.
And that's fine. But even when she figures out he's a robot, apparently, again, the whole plan is that he'll lead them to Aurora because they're apparently helpless to find it. It's like, we cover the planet. We have robots everywhere that fly and float and zap and can counter dweeb powers. Yeah. But apparently we have no chance of finding this city of people. And even better, when you find out the answer, it's like somehow under your nose, humans have developed interspatial travel.
Yeah, hyperdrive, interstellar,
which they
not
activate
interplanetary,
right above the
mind you,
castle.
interstellar travel, and have apparently gotten enough people off Earth to start a fabulous civilization, which we see in beautiful CGI and matte paintings.
Yeah, which quite honestly looks better than what we started with.
Yeah.
So they've been busy for 97 years.
Yeah.
So it doesn't make a lot of sense.
It doesn't make any, really.
And we, at the beginning of the film, we're meeting some of the characters, mainly Andrew and his mother, who's apparently very ill. Although Max and I sat there and debated, is it his mother or is it his wife?
Yeah.
I'm not sure.
Yeah.
And we decided on mother, and finally it turned out it was his mother. And she has a little robot pal. But, like, they just instantly kill everybody. And, like, well, I guess I'm not attached to any of those people. And, of course, they bring back our 12-year-old hero. Cusack, even plot-wise, I'm not sure what he brings to this film, but he has none of his energy or personality in here. I guess I'm trying to think of how his presence makes more sense. If we cut him out and we just have, what did you call him?
Dr. Glowskull.
Dr. Glowskull. If we just had Dr. Glowskull, I think we'd have been fine.
Yeah, Cusack really doesn't add anything narratively. What he adds is a name on the poster and the DVD box. And he's featured very prominently, which when you consider he's on screen for 10 minutes, maybe? 15?
And usually
Tops.
only for like...
And just for like a scene.
30 to 90 seconds at a time.
He's not there much. He makes some ponderous but very short speeches.
Yeah.
Most of which are just, as they say, laden with portent, but don't have any actual meaning.
I love you, portent!
No. Now, I would like to take a moment and look at some of the other movies that Mr. Cusack has been doing.
Oh, please, by all means.
Around this era. So for the last, I'd say, 8 years, the only movie I recognize is Hot Tub Time Machine 2.
Oh, yeah.
Which he is in uncredited.
Well, that's okay, because he was credited in the first one. See our entire episode on Hot Tub Time Machine.
Yeah. The last movie that he was in that I had actually heard of was Lee Daniels' The Butler. He plays Richard Nixon.
Okay, I need to go back for a second. So you're telling me he did Hot Tub Time Machine 2, said, no, take my name off that, but...
Yeah, but let his name be used here.
Okay.
But other than that, he's in, like, Cell, Arsenal, Blood Money, Distorted, River Runs Red, Never Grow Old, Pursuit.
Ah.
Now, Pursuit I thought I had run across on cable, but I'm not
Well, you ran
sure.
across on this on cable, too, so that's not saying much.
Yeah, apparently he's been in some TV show called Utopia, which I'd never heard of, in 2020. Played Dr. Kevin Christie. I don't know what that is. He really hasn't done very much. Not in the last, 10 years.
And I have looked into this and can't really find an answer. And the thing that weirds me out isn't so much maybe, because sometimes people do this. We talked about this a long time ago, but Cameron Diaz got to a point, she said, you know what? I'm done with this. I want to walk off. I am a mom. I want to pay attention to my kids and be a family, and that's it. And she walked off, and good for her.
Yeah, but she stopped making movies.
Right.
He has not. I think he's got Nicolas Cage syndrome.
Well, what's that?
Nicolas Cage syndrome is he says yes to everything.
Oh.
Says, you meet my price, I'll do it. I don't care what it is.
Yeah, but $800,000 shouldn't be enough to cover him.
And all I can figure, it was a favor for a friend or a contract issue. Like, I'll do this movie, but, because you've got me under contract to do 10 movies.
And here's the weird thing. Somebody with Cusack's history, skill level, and really just resume shouldn't have to be in that position.
Maybe, but think about it. Cusack is very talented. He's leading man stuff. Would you say he's an A-list star?
Yeah, I actually
You put him up there with George Clooney, Brad Pitt.
Let's put it this way. I would have up till about probably 2010. I would, because I find him, and that's why I chose him for this. Now, here's the thing. Clooney, as we will talk about next week, has done some real stinkers.
Oh, sure.
That I would argue are worse than this.
Yeah.
So-
I know which one you mean, and I can't disagree with that.
Now, that being said, I think Clooney is also one of those rare exceptions where he starts out in television and you think you know what you're going to get with Clooney, and then he will start surprising you and starts taking on roles and does some acting that you did not see coming. Cusack, I will admit, has never surprised me, even with being John Malkovich, which I think was a really gutsy role for him to take, and he did very well in. I don't see as much of a range, but I always feel comfortable with his acting until now.
The other thing is, he doesn't do big budget movies. The biggest one I can think of, and I think this is true, is 2012.
Okay.
He doesn't. I mean, he did America's Sweethearts. He had a hell of a cast, but that was not a terribly successful movie. Serendipity, which a lot of people like, but that's a rom-com. Rom-coms aren't big budget or big earners.
They can be big earners.
Very rarely, but Serendipity I don't believe was.
Yeah, we didn't look into that one. I actually like that movie. I'll admit that's a guilty pleasure.
Okay, but he's not up in terms of box office. He's not a big name.
And we found this out, which surprised both of us, that the earlier films that we picked, all of which were either we thought were big hits or very influential.
They were not.
They weren't. They didn't make a lot of money. In fact, none of the three of the ones we picked actually, if you look at the tally sheets, were profitable.
Yeah.
Which surprised me a lot, because I think of him as, a big star.
Yeah.
Maybe not as big as some, but...
The thing is, I don't think he is.
Maybe not. He certainly isn't now. I mean, in this film, it's more like to feel like the Cusack, to be like the Cusack. That's a deeper.
Yeah.
And this film has all the suspense of a tuna fish sandwich. I wish we could come to a better conclusion with John Cusack. And the series has been, I think, in a way, very eye-opening, because the way I thought of him turns out to not be, the numbers don't add up, let's put it that way. Say anything, very iconic role. Everybody knows him holding that boombox above his head. I really liked both High Fidelity and that other film we talked about. His name I can't remember because, what? Where
Midnight
are we?
in the Garden of
Yes, Midnight in the Garden of Garfield.
But again, that one wasn't successful.
I know, and it was a Clint Eastwood film.
Yeah.
And look who was in it. Kevin Spacey, I know. But Jude Law, and it's just, I don't know.
Yeah.
And you didn't remember it that well and were pleasantly surprised.
Yeah.
And strangely, he just doesn't seem to translate into big money. So, I mean, I think of him as a A-list star, but apparently he's not, which is a damn shame, because if I were making a movie, I'd totally hire him.
Yeah. He's one of those people who should be a star, but isn't.
Yeah, and it happens.
Yeah.
Matt Dillon was poised to be the next big thing, like Ethan Hawke or whatever, something like that. And he was in tons of films as a teenager, very well respected. Everyone thought he was going to be big, and he just never did. Just never ever came into anything. So I don't know.
It happens sometimes. There are the people who are groomed to be big stars, or people think they're going to be big stars, and just something zigs where it's supposed to zag, and that's it.
Yeah. Getting back to this particular film, we noted that it had a tiny budget. And if you remember going back to our series before, when we talked about that French film, The Deep, we noted how for what little money, I think it was like $1.5 million or something,
it was
tiny amount of money, it had the same problem. It looked really good.
Yeah.
It's just the writing was terrible.
Yeah, they had no script.
Yeah, and they didn't even have a tuna sandwich.
Yeah.
Here's the same thing. Where we have, what I wrote was, this is kind of like The Matrix Goes Camping.
Yeah, the Matrix is a good comparison. When Kronos is talking, or Kronos Cusack is talking, or whatever, I kept expecting it to go, I'll let you in on a little secret. I hate humans. I think it's the smell. Just arguably the best scene in The Matrix as far as I'm concerned, at least in terms of dialogue. Hugo Weaving walks away with that movie so much.
Yeah, and they still very much the overtones are stolen from The Matrix. I honestly think she's meant to look like Katniss, so we're going to go with Hunger Games.
There's a lot of it grabs every kind of young adult dystopian fiction, older science fiction.
Terminator.
I mean, the robots in there. My first thought was, oh look, it's Ed 209's little brother Ed 109.
Yeah, and there's some like humanoid robots that are obviously meant to be just helpers wandering around.
They look like from the Will Smith movie I, Robot.
Except they don't have those those dopey humanish faces, which
No.
did not work, but
Yeah.
whatever. I do actually have a talking point I would like to ask you before we get
Sure.
too far off the beaten path. And oh boy, is it beaten. Assuming that there isn't an evil Cusack up there twirling his mustache and planning Kronos, which means time, which kept making me think it's time for this movie to be over. Would you, if it were available, have a robot pal?
Oh, boy. You mean that kind of humanoid robot?
Yeah, I mean, even the ones that we see aren't meant to look like humans.
Yeah.
They just walk and have 2 legs, 2 arms, the whole thing. They're there to help, and they're there to do, chores. And
I don't know. I need to see the proof of concept. I'd want to see them in action for a while. My initial thought is no.
Why is that?
Because I've seen too many of these damn movies. And I know that these things are just waiting to kill me.
Yeah.
Hell, I don't even want a Roomba. I'm pretty sure that those things are just waiting to go off and take us all out at the ankles.
I think I actually saw a YouTube video where somebody had taped a knife to a Roomba.
Yeah, I would believe it. No, the idea creeps me out. Honestly, if they didn't make them look human, maybe. But I don't know what it would depend what they could do. I would be much more interested in an exoskeleton.
Okay.
So like if I got old and weak, that I could put on and still move around and pick things up and, move normally.
I mean, if your legs are weak and your eyes
Because
are old,
my ears are grizzled. What about you? Would you want one?
it depends. I mean,
Yeah.
I admit I'm a lazy person, and there's bunches of things I do not like to do. And there's, I do like things neat and tidy when possible. So if, depending on the cost, depending on what it was potentially able to do, yeah, I don't see how my having a robot makes everybody else's standard of living go up, but whatever.
I would consider it if the thing had an absolutely guaranteed kill switch.
Oh yes, you push this button and it will kill you.
And not something like, well, you connect to it with Bluetooth and then hit no, I want it to have a pack of dynamite on its back that I can go over and light.
Yeah. Yeah, and she throws around a couple of things that are supposed to be EM pulse bombs, and it's like, no.
Yeah. Okay. Also, where did she get those? First, the robot. It's not. My first thought is, oh, she's stealing from the robot. Like, wait, why would the robots have weapons only designed to hurt robots?
I mean, why are you asking these questions?
I don't know. It was just dumb. It's like I've got a crossbow and an EMP generator.
Yeah, which is the size of like a lantern flashlight.
Yeah,
Which, as we all know from Ocean's 11, is not possible.
Yeah.
And it's called a pinch anyway.
Yeah, and
it's nice to be working with proper villains again.
You think we need another guy?
I have a favorite quote from this film because I remember there's a lot of really amazing logic and philosophy. And I know that you also appreciated this quote, but I'd like to share this with our audience. That which cannot be found can be tempted. If that doesn't bring you and the film to a complete halt,
like that, I assume that's the idea. If you can't find something, you can lure it out. But that sentence doesn't make any sense.
I will find you, spelling corrector. I will seek you out.
The other one that really got me in terms of just hokiness was in one of the voiceovers when Katniss is talking about finding Aurora. In Aurora, good was said to flourish. Oh, Lord. Because, the robots are all saying, oh, the humanity is evil. And she's like, oh, yeah, all I see is evil in people. Except this one place. I trust no one except these kids.
Well, we like to water good every day, so it will flourish and bloom forever. Yeah, so they steal from a bunch of different movies, and I'm not even going to say borrow or are inspired by. They just steal.
And not even steal, rip off. There's a difference. Stealing can be done with a certain amount of respect. Good artists borrow, great artists steal.
Well, then it's French. It's an homage.
Yeah.
Ooh, sorry, that hurt.
Yeah. No, this is tearing something out and carrying it wounded and bleeding to graft it into your movie.
And even worse, they hand it to Katniss. She then explains it badly, and Andrew stands there with his mouth open. That's pretty much the whole film. Yeah. And wandering through these lovely forests. Actually did kind of make me want to visit the Czech Republic.
Yeah,
wow, this is pretty.
I
like
nice.
this.
I want to go to Switzerland and check out that castle.
Well, or if it's in the Czech, I don't know where it is, but it's pretty cool. I don't know if I have any more of these notes that...
No, I think most of the rest of my notes are just typing the word "why" over and over and over. Wow, 11 pages.
Yeah, that's... you should cut down.
Yeah.
All that digital paper you're using up.
It's unfortunate that this brings us to the end of our focus on John Cusack.
Yeah, and, the hopes that something will turn around. And this has happened. We've seen actors that have had these dry periods, often in their quote-unquote middle ages, that sometimes come back and do some amazing work.
Yeah, I'm hoping that does happen. I hope this, like, he does a Samuel L. Jackson or even a John Travolta.
Sure, exactly like those people. And I really like John Cusack. There's a bunch of his films that I really like, but we should find out if this was this was one of them.
Yeah.
The Roundup. So Max, I know you hadn't seen this before.
I had not.
Because you had avoided it because...
I wouldn't have let you do this if I had seen this before. I would have just gone, find anything else.
Well, now, Max, that brings a question up that I hadn't considered before. What did you think of this movie?
I think that's it's terrible.
Yeah.
It's badly made. It's badly acted. John Cusack, I can't even say he's wasted because he's barely in it.
Oh, I think he's wasted.
I would make me feel better if I found out that he was drunk or high the whole time. It's like, all right, at least he had some fun, and maybe he didn't even know he was in a movie. He just thought, hey, look, man, there's some people with cameras hanging out here. Cool.
Yeah.
No, this is bad, and it's uninteresting. Except if you're really into scenery, and that you can watch about a minute and a half of. There's nothing to recommend this. Nothing.
Yeah.
It's not even so bad it's funny.
No.
It's just not entertaining. The one thing I will say, it's comparatively short. It's about 92 minutes.
Yeah.
But Mike, I know you felt completely differently.
Well, sometimes I do have to take that opposite point of view, so we can have a little, interest, a little
back and forth,
cinematic conflict, because Lord knows there wasn't any in this film. No, it was terrible. It was terrible. And Max is totally right. It wasn't even so bad it was good. It was that boring kind of bad where you know everything that's going to happen. The only thing that didn't happen that I predicted was she wasn't a robot too, but who cares? The sequel beg was atrocious. It was almost like this entire film was a bad prologue to another movie you don't want to see.
Yeah.
And there's films that are really terrible that we've enjoyed.
Yeah.
And we inflict them upon ourselves many times, a lot of times. And this is just so annoyingly forgettable. Because what will happen is 2 or 3 years down the road, something will, for some unknown reason, remind us of this, and we'll go, oh yeah, that John Cusack film, that's not a John Cusack film. We've seen Robot Holocaust before. We don't care. We don't get to know anybody long enough to care. We see literally 2 people in the future. We see Andrew and his mom, and that's it. And she's dying anyway, so it's not as like a huge loss for us there. And he's supposed to be a nice guy. And then when he comes back, and it's 97 years later, we're all just, well, we know he's a robot. It's 97 years. He walks out of a farmhouse. It's not like there's a force field around it or anything. So nothing makes sense. We have dumb quotes like that which cannot be found can be tempted. And the whole idea that just having robots means that everybody's level of life goes up, except that there'll be robot wars that people aren't fighting but robots are, which means that we're more violent as a species and whatever. So, that's what we've got.
Yeah,
so
honestly, if you're going to watch a movie about a robot holocaust, go watch Robot Holocaust.
Don't.
Well, watch
or
the Mystery
you'll be
Science.
stuck in the room of questions.
You and your daughter are doomed.
Now, if you want to watch a movie about Robot Holocaust, watch T1 or T2. Honestly. Or if you want to watch The Matrix, watch the one Matrix film they ever made. Just the one. Or heck, even watch the first Hunger Games. I never watched after that, but I like them.
Yeah.
Or watch all 3, and together you'll get this film, except way, way, way better.
Yep.
But we're going to go over the poll question again, because we want people to be able to answer that. This is a big one, because next week we're going to be, we'll get to that in a sec. Well, obviously, you already know, but help us out, won't you? We would like to know, what is your favorite filmic representation of Batman? And to do so, you can get back to us via email. You can mail us directly at us@maxmikemovies.com. You can go to our website and find all of our previous episodes at maxmikemovies.com, like I don't know our own website, where you will find all our separate episodes where you can leave comments and suggestions, all sorts of cool, nasty things, whatever you'd like to say. We have, in fact, taken suggestions for series in the past, movies we should see, and in fact, coming up soon.
Yeah, we're still hoping that you guys will help us out. We're doing another focus after Batman that I'm choosing, and we're going to do another focus on of an actor of your choosing.
Yep, and you've already given us some great suggestions.
Yep.
We're probably going to go through those and decide how we're going to pick. But if you have any other last-minute ones, by all means, there is still time.
I'm hoping for a big write-in campaign for Cash Flag.
Yeah, the lemon drop kids.
Yeah.
Sure. Hey, you can find us on social media as long as that social media is limited to Twitter, because the Elon has not yet caused a big problem by buying it, or Facebook, where we are both Max Mike Movies. And, of course, lastly, if you like to listen to podcasts, which who doesn't, then you will find us on pretty much any podcast you can find, because a podcast app you can find, because there we are. But
to be like the Elon. To live like the Elon.
we get a lot of mileage out of Robot Monster.
We do.
And the Zillion Bubble Machine. But next week,
it's
a big show.
Yes.
Yes.
Because next week, we are vengeance. We are the night.
No,
we're not the podcast you deserve, but we're the podcast you need. It's complicated.
Don't forget the fabric softener.
Yeah.
Next week, our 200th episode, which means Max and I have been doing this for 12 years.
Yep,
12 years.
I thought it was 15, but sure.
Max Mike Movies gets to 200. Last time we had a big episode, we took on all of Star Wars.
The whole thing.
Well, just the number of movies, and did we do Rogue One and Han Solo?
Yes, we did.
Yes, we did. So we didn't do any TV shows or cartoons.
Nope.
Next week, it's just Max and I, but we're taking on Batman, mano y mano, which does not mean what you think it means. It means hand to hand.
Yeah.
Old chum indeed. There's a lot of old chum in Batman's history. We're starting off, we're going to be touching on touchstones all the way back to 1943. The Batman himself shows up in 1939 in Detective Comics, number 27. Not exactly the Batman we have today. Because too good.
Blam, blam!
Yeah, lots of killing.
Take that, Joker.
But we're not going to be looking at the comic books. We're not going to be looking at the novels. Are there any? Probably.
Good heavens. Yeah, we're not looking at the novels. We're not looking at a lot of the animated movies. We'll be talking about the shows.
Yes. And we're going to be talking about the Batman from 1943
all the way up through
2022.
Yeah.
Did it come out in 2021?
I think it was 2021 is when the Batman, the last one.
No, it was 2022.
It was this year?
Yep,
Okay.
because I went to the theater to see it.
Then we're going all the way
The
up.
Batman!
All the way up to this year, where we're going to see emo Batman.
Yeah, and we hope you will join us for that and answer that poll question so we can find out. And hey, let us know why you like that particular version.
Yeah, what is it about that does it for you?
But next week, we will all put on our cape and cowl and punch crime right in the nads.
Pow! Zap!
Ow!
Biff! This has been a co-production of The Voice of Max and The Movie Wrench.